Hi, my name is Rita and we're reaching that, and I welcome you to hashtag IP Series Christmas Edition, where we talk about recent intellectual property cases and development globally. This could take the form of copyright, trademark, patent, industrial design, trade secret, geographical indication, plant varieties, and biotech. Now we know that at the beginning of this year we had things were going smoothly, and then suddenly there was a pandemic and there was a need for a global lockdown in order to flatten the curve. And a lot of sports enthusiasts missed most of the games, the Premier League, UEFA League, all the leagues in the various forms of sports. And then they had just one sports to turn to, and that was the virtual sports, esports, and it went huge. And in Nigeria, we're seeing a lot of changes. We had a few esport tournaments. We have esport enthusiasts, esport practitioners growing. We also had some rules that affected the sports industry, but not affecting the esports sector. So we're going to talk about everything esports today, what the future holds in Nigeria and in Africa, what we need to do differently. And our guest for today's episode is really loaded. Trust me, guys, it was fun recording this. I hope you guys learned something as much as I did while recording this. I hope you also send out your comments and criticisms if you have any. So yeah, let's welcome our guests for today, Mr. Ojo. Let's welcome our guest for today, Stephen Ojo. Could you just tell us a bit about yourself and what you do?
Okay, my name is Ojo Stephen, and I'm an esports/gaming enthusiast. What I do basically is help gaming and esport creatives in Nigeria, navigate the whole legal considerations that affect the esports industry, seeing that it is an emerging industry in mainstream entertainment. So that's basically what I do.
Fantastic. So, can you just tell us, like, a brief in what esports generally is all about and how we perceive esports in the Nigerian sector?
Okay, so esport basically is, to make it as simple as it can be, is just bringing competitions to video games. So, I mean, the history of esport can be dated as far back as 1998, but it's only in recent times, like let's say even as far back maybe 2014, thereabout, where the industry started to pick up, specifically in Africa. So, yeah, that's exactly what esports entails: bringing competitions to video games. So whatever game that is out there, making waves, making trends, if the dynamics of the game actually involves a competitive aspect, meaning two or more people, competing for something, definitely it qualifies as an esports game title. So I think that's the old gist of what esports is all about.
So, what are the issues that you think exist, when you're trying to create a structure for esports in Nigeria and in Africa?
Okay, so first of all, the games are what make up the industry, and as such, to create a proper structure, you would need the input of the most integral aspect of the whole value chain. And when I say the most integral aspect, I'm talking about the game developers slash game publishers. So when you say you want to create a structure, you then ask yourself, will the makers of FIFA be involved in whatever structure you want to come up with, or will the makers of Call of Duty be involved in whatever structure you want to come up with? And this is what really affects Africa, because currently the games that are being played, worldwide, or the most popular games, none of them actually, come from Africa. In fact, I don't think any one of such games actually have like a home office or a branch here in Africa. So when you are thinking of a structure from that perspective, you then ask yourself, to what extent can you actually have a valid structure? Because if you come up with a structure, EA can say, no, we don't recognize this, we don't want this, and all of that. Also, when you're talking of enforcement of rules and all of that, it's very, very difficult to do that in the esport industry, and this is why so many discussions are currently ongoing, because the game publishers slash game development companies themselves have their own internal rules. They have the rules as to who can play their game. They have the rules as to the countries that can actually play their games. So, in a situation where you have to create a structure, how then do you marry that with the internal rules that these game publishing companies slash development companies actually have in-house? So, for a practical example is, if you create, let's say, an association of esports federation of Africa or something, and you say no African player can play unless he's 16 or unless he's 18, and EA says no, our own internal policy is no African player can play unless he's below or unless he's 16 or something. So you see that there is a discrepancy there. And of course, if there's a situation like that, the one from EA would definitely supersede that of the African organization. So basically, that's the issue, that really affects structure when it comes to even globally, but specifically Africa. It's a very, very tough one, because as you know, as most people would know, not all countries from Africa are always eligible for some kind of tournament. So, for example, like the FIFA World Series, in as much as it's a global event, only two countries from Africa can participate: South Africa and Egypt. So, and every day people are clamoring, yeah,
Wow.
so it's just two countries. So, if you create an association, what exactly are you creating the association for if a global event like that, Africa cannot participate in, as a continent? So, it's just one of the many issues that actually affect structure when it comes to the esports industry.
Do we have like regulatory bodies? If we do, what are the challenges you think that they face, in relation to the esports sector?
Oh, okay. So yes, we actually have regulatory bodies. I'm going to start from the global scene. So from the global scene, we have Global Esports Federation, and we have the International Esports Federation. So there are two federations that will I say, vying for that strategic position to be like the sole body, like a FIFA for esports. So yes, and
Okay.
once we already have those two bodies at the top, so each body is trying to like have some form of affiliation with which regions and all of that. So in Africa, we actually have the Esport Federation of Africa, and that body is associated with the International Esport Federation. So as you have that, so you definitely have the Global Esport Federation. They also have their own affiliated body in Africa. So you can see that is not from a regulatory perspective. There's no holistic approach to this thing. So one of the issues they are facing, even at the global scene, is the same thing I mentioned when we're talking of structure. How do you build an association to govern something that is strictly based on the intellectual property of a certain company, and this certain company or companies are not, will I say, interested at the moment, in identifying one particular body as the sole regulatory body and whatnot. But most of these organizations are actually making progress. So with the Global Esports Federation, they have the backing of one of the largest game publishing company, Tencent. So that on its own is giving the association a very huge backing when it comes to getting affiliations and all of that. So I'll definitely say that's a major issue, getting the game developers and the publishing companies on board, because that's the only issue that affected esport being a sport in the Olympics, because the International Olympics Committee, expressed this same reservation as to the involvement of the game developing companies, when licensing their intellectual property and all of that. So I think that would be the only issue when it comes to regulation in sport.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So let just pick one now. Traditional sports or esports? Which of the I know traditional sports is more lucrative, but given the light of digital conversions and disruptions here and there, traditional sports or esports?
Well, when people ask me this question, I say both, because both actually rely on yeah, they rely on each other for so many things. So I can tell you categorically that during this pandemic, the traditional sport relied on esports to actually stay, stay connected to their audience, basically. So you could see the Premier League. They did a virtual Premier League. Bundesliga, they have a Bundesliga esport league. So all of these, they come together to play a very huge role, and that's why you see sports teams actually having esport teams today. AC Milan recently just launched their own esport team. There's Man City. They have a collaboration with an esport team called Face Clan. So everybody knows that definitely the collaboration is very, very key to the growth of both sides. So if you ask me that question, I'll say both actually. Yeah.
You're not being
Yeah.
fair right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so when this year started, we all thought the year was going to go like really smooth, and then the pandemic, COVID-19 came, and then there was a global lockdown. What would you say was the major impact of the lockdown on the esports? Was it a good thing or a bad thing?
Oh wow. In fact, the only way I can it's definitely good. And the only bad thing that I can say the pandemic did to esport basically is to shed light to certain issues that people have been trying to keep on the low when it comes to the esport industry. But apart from that, it's all been good for the industry, because the pandemic affected most industries but could not really, because it kind of affected the esport industry too, but could not really affect the esport industry because of the technological aspect of the industry. So you could definitely sit in your house and play game with somebody that is in the United States of America. So it doesn't have to be a situation where everybody has to be physically present. So with the pandemic, it forced a lot of people to start playing games, playing online games, and this, saw an increase in esport activities. And even companies like Activision, they posted their biggest ever profit in the first quarter in all of their existence. They posted their biggest ever profit in the first quarter this year. So definitely it has been a good thing, and it has made regulatory bodies, private individuals, and all other stakeholders to pay so much attention to the industry. I mean, the United Kingdom was recently debating on how to create something for esport basically, and they've actually set up a body called Digital Media. I can't really remember, but I know that the head of that body is Chester King. His name is Chester King. So you can see that the pandemic really made the government to react, because they needed to find a way to engage youth, engage people, cover up for the lack of job opportunities and all of that. So definitely, I would say the pandemic was a good thing that happened to the esports industry.
There was a good thing globally, but we can't say if it was a good thing in Nigeria.
No, in Nigeria, it was to an extent. I mean, during the pandemic, the Minister of Sports actually recognized esports as a sport. At least, I don't know if so much action have been done, subsequent to that, but at least it brought that recognition, and kind of drove home the fact that okay, the Nigerian government are aware that there's even something called esports, and they are doing something about it. So for Nigeria, I mean, and there were a lot of tournaments, a lot of online tournaments were going on in Nigeria. So many people were, participating and all of that. So yes, I would say to an extent, it was.
Okay. What are the what are the intellectual property rights that exist in the esports sector?
Yeah. So like I say every time, everywhere I go, I mean, esports is IP. Like you can't have the esport industry without intellectual property. Like if there's any sector where IP practitioners and what have you should be focused on is actually the esport industry and not even traditional sport. And I'll give an explanation. So, unlike traditional sport,
Okay.
where if I take a ball, I bring my friends together and we go to a pitch and we start playing football. That on its own has no IP. It doesn't concern IP because except if my friends say, okay, you are making video of my creativity and all of that. But I'm just talking about the whole setup. If you start streaming maybe live street football or something, you can't say nobody can say I own football. So take down that video or something. So in that sense, the only point where you start dealing with IP when you talk of traditional sport is maybe when you are dealing with footballers or player athletes, you are talking of endorsement deals, signing and all of that. But in esport industry, from the moment you press a button, IP already starts. From the moment you press a button, because when you download or when you buy the games, so for example, you buy FIFA already comes with a term of use.
Yeah.
So you have to click I agree. Now, once you click that I agree, you have said, okay, EA, these are your rules, and I agree to your rules. If I break any of them, so punishment should come to me. So that on its own is IP. Now you start playing the game and you are so good, you want to start live streaming and all of that. The moment you start live streaming and start playing the game in a certain creative way, you already have IP to that recording, that gameplay footage. So you can see that in a gameplay footage on YouTube or whatever platform you're using, you already have two existing intellectual property rights: the right of the game publishers themselves and the right you yourself, you have copyright to that gameplay footage. So it's definitely, a lot of mix up in between. So that's why I say, IP really plays a huge role in the esport industry. So there's copyright, there's patent, there's industrial design, there's trademark. In fact, recently a gamer just registered for a patent for his hoodie. So he developed a very innovative gaming hoodie. So he's going to patent that right now. And I tell people,
In
no,
Nigeria,
no, no, not in Nigeria. Of course, not in
oh,
Nigeria. Things like that.
ah, when are we going to catch up now?
Yeah, no, I'm just talking like goodbye. And even here in Nigeria, yes,
Yeah.
IP really plays a lot of role because currently in the esport industry, nobody has been able to figure out a valid monetization scheme. So basically, unlike football, where you can say, okay, we can generate money from fans entering the stadium. In Nigeria, we don't have that yet. But what people actually rely on to actually get a lot of revenue is brand affiliation, sponsorship, endorsement. And this is where intellectual property comes in. Because if a brand wants to be affiliated with you, they have to look at your intellectual property asset and say, how many number of youths have exposure to your brand? It's only there, when they answer that question, they can say, okay, we want to actually sponsor you or we want to endorse XYZ content creators. So that's why, anytime I engage with creative, I tell them your asset, where you get your money, is your IP, your logo, your identity and everything. And that's why even with top esports organizations globally, their logo is the very first thing that they pay so much attention to. If you see a logo of Face Clan today, you would know that this is Face Clan. If you see a logo of Cloud9 today, you definitely know that this is Cloud9 because it has a blue, they have the color blue and all of that. So IP is the soul and life of esports. And for IP practitioners that are looking for, where to be more relevant, I would definitely advise, the esports industry. So that's my take on that.
Well, I'm glad that I am an IP lawyer. So,
Yeah, you could also join. You could also join, and the fun thing about
yeah,
it is I deal with so many creatives, and well, I say it's kind of like overwhelming because most of them don't even know, okay, what the IP rights are, okay, how to even take them seriously. And that's why I tell, some of my friends that probably want to also enter the space. I'm like, it actually goes beyond you just know your intellectual property. It actually involves you knowing how it
yeah.
is being applied. Okay, what kind of logo do esports or organizations generally, use, or how is it generally designed? Because I'm telling you, some content creators I met in Nigeria, they do weird logos, build lion and put fire on the lion or something. And I'm like, no, as a practitioner, I know that these are the kind of logos that actually make waves in the industry. So put out this your lion and fire logo. Use something simple, use something very unique. And so that's how I've been able to, deal with them. So it has to, it involves the knowledge of law and also a little bit of, how the industry also works, with regards to certain things.
Still on intellectual property, let's talk about the interplay between esports, technology, and IP. You know that tech is what is trending now. Tech, data, AI, machine learning, everything is what is trending now. And it seems like if you're not, they're not catching up, you'll be left behind. So what's that interplay between the esports sector, technology, and also intellectual property?
Okay, so yes, there's definitely an interplay, and trust me, esports, 90% of esports industry is actually made of the technological aspect. So when we're talking of the interplay, we're talking of how both of them actually come together to play a role especially when we're dealing with content creation. So for instance, there has been this issue of DMCA, when you are streaming live stream or VOD videos, and you include a copyrighted song in it. So, and this issue has been lingering for over a year now, and you can see that technology has actually come in to play a crucial role. So right now, there are platforms where a if you upload a particular maybe video or stream or anything, even sometimes if you just mistakenly sing a copyrighted song, not that you even play the song, or you mistakenly sing it or something, the video is automatically taken down automatically, even without notice and all of that. So in with regards to that, we can see technology really playing a very major role. So I think for the esport industry, that would be the area where I see technology, intellectual property actually coming together to play a huge role in the industry.
Great. So when you were talking, you made mention of how creatives don't really understand how IP works other than creating their
Yeah, yeah.
content. How can IP help the developers themselves and the publishers in commercializing the IP rights that actually exist in the esports sector?
Okay. Yes. So I mean, when you mean game developers, so yes,
Yes.
I think IP practitioners have a huge role because, um, like I said, IP is the soul and life of esport industry, and based on my interface with this creative, I would really, like a situation whereby these developers, content creators can be working with IP practitioners from the get go, from the moment you actually start that project. Because most of these creatives, they will have gone like 90%, and you just come and look like, wow, what did you just do? Because everything you've done, no aspect of it actually complies with the law and all of that. So yes, practitioners can definitely come in and advise developers as to the commercialization of things such as their logo, making sure that their, what do you call it now, the logo, the design aspect of these things are actually in tandem with what is going on in the industry. So you see a game developer making a game and he's putting fire or putting some kind of demonic sign and all of that. You definitely know from the get-go that most parents won't like a game like that. They won't like something that is not so simple. So for instance, the game, one of the projects I'm currently working on, the guy created a shooting game, and I told him, I said, this won't fly in Nigeria because not really, because Nigerians play shooting game, but I'm talking of parents, young children, and all that. I said, if you at all want it to fly, try and add an educative aspect to it. And so with the storyline, we were able to add an educative aspect. And the day we were pitching the game, a parent was there and she was like, oh, she was at first not happy, with your shooting and everything. But when she realized that it was actually educating young people as to the environment and sustainability goals and all of that, she was definitely impressed with the game. So definitely these are the things IP practitioners can go beyond. It's not just to say, okay, your logo or trademark your logo and you just leave the person and you just let the person go. You have to go beyond just recommending conventional advice on maybe trademarking things or making an application for patent registration and all of that. Go beyond that and advise people on how to even make this game um viable for funding, investment, growth, and all of that. So I feel like that's where IP practitioners can come in and be relevant in the industry.
Hopefully they listen, but you know, all of those things. So, well, like to your own, like based on your own assessment, what are the best esports development you've seen so far in Nigeria and globally?
Okay, so globally, I don't even know where to start from. I mean, the scene is so.
Just give us one or two now.
Okay, I'll probably say, probably it's just sort of. I'll probably say one of the development I've seen, which I like, globally, is the development of structured leagues and franchises and all of that across all regions. So currently, globally, you have this event by Riot Games. So they have a situation whereby they have leagues across regions where you get to buy players, you get to sell players. These players have contracts. These contracts are actually filed with a league office. You can't sell a player without um, consent by the league office and all of that. So for me, I feel like this is a very wonderful development because it brings some form of structure to an industry where people said structure is going to be difficult. And it also ties back to the example I gave, which is these game development companies or publishing companies have to play a huge role. So Riot Game is actually the publisher and the developer for the game called League of Legends. So you can see why it is very, very easy for them to actually create a structured league across regions. They have a North American championship that they do. They also have an Asian championship. So you can buy players, sell, almost like a football like structure. So for me, I feel like that's the greatest development I've seen globally. Then coming to Nigeria, Nigeria, I would say they've been a lot of development. Okay, the one that impressed me the most, which I worked on also, is the LAN event that recently happened last month in November. So a LAN event basically involves players coming together in one location to play. So it was based on a mobile game, Call of Duty Mobile, PUBG Mobile, and so we had I think we had 8 teams consisting of 5 players. So we had 40 players in one location at the same time playing games. And this event was sponsored by Techno, Pop Central, the French Embassy in Nigeria, complete sport, yeah, and so on. I probably must have even skipped some. So this was, for me, this is like one of the biggest events that's ever happened in Nigeria because it validated the industry. It showed that people are actually involved. A lot of youths are definitely looking for that opportunity because they had to transport themselves to that location at Ikoyi, and all 40 people actually came there. In fact, it would have been more than 40, but we had to limit the number of teams because of COVID-19 protocols. So I think initially we had 16 teams participate of 5 players. And so, that event has garnered over 5,000 views on YouTube. It's the most watched esport event in Nigeria. So definitely, yes,
Well
yes,
done.
over
Well
5K.
done.
Yes. So it was organized by Esport Nigeria in conjunction with League of Extraordinary Gamers. So it's definitely a sign of good things to come. So it tells everybody that the industry is here to stay. It's not going anytime soon. So yeah, yeah.
Let me go and learn how to start playing.
well, well, you can start with
I will
FIFA. Like
participate.
if I advise anybody, I'll tell you just start with FIFA because if you start with any mobile game now, you get frustrated. People have advanced to so many legend status where if you are a beginner you just get frustrated. So but FIFA, all these sports games, they are quite easy to learn and you can always improve. So yeah, if you want to start, I'll advise FIFA. You can start with that.
Let me save my money for my PS5 then.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, what is like the most controversial issue that we've experienced in the Nigerian sector in relation to
Okay, in Nigeria.
esports?
Okay. Well, this is going to be a tough one because I don't want to try and rubbish people, but at the same time, I want to try like be professional. Okay, so I would say one of the issues is lack of professionalism. Like, yes, because you see so many people say, okay, we have esport teams. Not many of them are even registered under the Nigerian law. Not many people sign players contractually to come and play games for them. Not many people take the professional, aspect of things when it comes to esports in Nigeria. So if you are asking people, how many of you do not even 9 to 5 job, 9 to 12 job that is just esport? You can't see so many people show their hands and say, okay, I actually work full time, or even let's say part time. The part time, some people are even working as esport professionals, probably like once in a week or weekend event. So this lack of professionalism is what really rubs off on everybody, and that's why the industry is actually finding it difficult to see investment. Just recently, a team from Egypt, Anubis Gaming, they raised $300,000 just off gaming. Yes, $300,000. And for now in Nigeria, I don't think any, like I said, I don't want to rubbish teams, but I don't know if any team can, achieve that status as at now, try to raise $300,000. So, but this goes to show that, that's the major issue, professionalism. Once that enters the industry, a lot of things will be happening, where people actually say, okay, look, we want to set up a team. Let's go and register with CAC. We want to get, we want to get this player we want to get this player on board to play for us. This is your contract. Sign. You are going to play for us for 2 years, 3 years. Because what goes on now is it's just word of mouth. Guy, can you play? Come to my team. The next thing you know, the next month is no longer with you. He's with another team. So it's really hard to, yes, it's really hard to, okay, move to monitor, okay, where is this guy? Which team is he with now? Trust me, it's a very difficult thing for me. But I try my best to stay in touch with current trends in the industry here because I have to, because that's my major selling point, having information about the industry. So you don't know where somebody is going. The next thing you know, this person is with another team, and you ask yourself, how did that happen? So, but once there's a contract binding you to a team, you have to be serious. You can't just move anywhere. even if you want to move, there must be an option to terminate or something, option to leave or something in the contract. So the moment people start signing contracts and it's becoming serious, a lot of these gamers will now sit up, these team owners will too sit up and, try to do something great for themselves. So for me, that's the major issue, and it can actually be solved. It's just, for more education. Actually, I won't blame some of these stakeholders because there's not too much information actually going out in terms of will I say giving them that orientation. Because even me myself, it's because I'm kind of exposed. I make some kind of research on my own. These people are, gamers. They don't necessarily want to do research and all of these things. So it has to. That's why we need a lot of people that are actually, knowledgeable about this thing, that can start to talk to people and say, hello. Like for myself, the reason why I'm able to like have so much information is because I do lots of research when it comes to the industry, because it's an emerging area. So you have to do a lot of research and also kind of be active in the industry also. So, and this is, I'm trying to make an argument for, the gamers, the game organizations, team owners, and all of that. And most of them are actually not educated as to, what it actually takes to be, relevant or to make the industry viable. So this is why I said, it takes a lot of people to actually do the education. There's a limit to what, so many people can do. So, but if there are more, practitioners involved and all of that, it definitely will go a long way into, creating that stable industry that we want.
Cool. So what are the trends you think we should look out for in 2021?
In Nigeria,
Nigeria, globally, just what are the trends from your own insight, what do you think we should be looking out for in the gaming
okay,
sector?
so for the gaming, I think so there's a difference between gaming and actually esports. So I'll just try to like merge everything together. So currently,
Okay.
yeah, what's going on is something they call the next gen console. So a lot of people are, buzzing about it. Then cloud gaming. Cloud gaming is something that is going to be, really, really massive. In fact, the trend everybody should look out for 2021 is cloud gaming, because that's going to really redefine the industry. It's going to redefine a lot, because Amazon is currently working on, their Amazon Luna. Microsoft Microsoft is working on something. I know Google have been on Google Stadia for God knows how long, but everybody was still waiting for. It's currently out, but they are still working on some things and all of that. So, but 2021, these three giants are going head to head. Oh, sorry, I forgot to add Facebook. So, Facebook recently launched their own cloud gaming. So, these four giants in 2021, they are going to be very aggressive, when it comes to actually developing something for the market. So I think that's one trend people should look out for in 2021.
What would you say is the growth of virtual competition? Is it like the new normal, or is just a phase that is going to blow over soon?
It's definitely the new normal. It's not going to go anytime soon. And the reason why I'm so sure is because of the kind of role it plays. It doesn't. It's not just about the revenue aspect, and that's because I feel like if you can focus on the kind of impact that the industry can have, whether to a country, to a country's economy, then all of that things will follow. So definitely virtual competition is here to stay, because it creates an avenue for youth to even be more productive, because no 40 something year old man, except if I said if I'm wrong, Sha, but no 40-70-year-old man would genuinely want to be interested in whatever esport, has to say, from a participatory angle. Meaning, I don't see any 40-something-year-old man saying he wants to actually play competitive, esport, or be involved in some way. And it's no fault to them. It's just that the technical aspect of the industry is so robust that it can actually be very confusing to old people of older generations. I mean, to stream alone, the knowledge you need to put in place to actually stream an event live, it's so complicated. So definitely it's an industry that's attractive, to the youth, and it creates lots of opportunity. And fortunately, the industry is one that you can even integrate several aspects like coding, designs, and all these other things to actually make youth more productive. So the industry as a whole is here to stay, because it's definitely a plus and not a minus to the global economy. So I definitely vote for virtual competition as the new normal.
How profitable is the esports
Uh,
industry
well,
compared to traditional
well,
sport?
well, well. Okay, so far, like I said, not a lot of people have been able to devise a monetization scheme yet. Globally, some people have been able to do that. Globally. I mean, so, and how they do it is they do sales of merchandise, live event. People actually pay more to come and view events live. Like, it's really that serious over there. But here in Nigeria, I would say, yeah, it can be profitable if it's structured well. But currently, I'm not going to lie, it's something that everybody is trying to like figure out a perfect monetization scheme. But in the long run, it's definitely a profitable industry because it is youth oriented. And whatever thing that youth are heavily invested in, you definitely see a lot of rewards down the line. And once brands can see that their products can easily get close to the youth, they will definitely want to explore all means to do that. An example is the LAN event which I mentioned, that happened last month. It was sponsored by Techno. I'm telling you, currently, guys are so taken by the Techno phone, they want to actually buy a Techno phone and all of that. So it's definitely a way to reach out to youth. So I'll say, yeah, it's a pretty profitable industry. But unlike traditional sport, nah, not yet, not yet. Traditional sport is still mainstream. I mean, this is an industry that just started coming up, at least in Nigeria. I would say not too long, maybe 3-4 years ago. So definitely, traditional sport would definitely trump it. Yeah.
What would you say is the interplay of esports and
Okay,
sporting rights?
okay, okay. So yes, there's an interplay, and but I won't really say so, because if we are comparing to if we are comparing esport to traditional sport, there might be some form of complications there, because when we are talking of sporting rights in traditional sport, we'll talk of broadcasting rights, image rights, and all of that. Now for esports, like I said, IP is the live and soul, yes, of intellectual property. And so that's where the
And
complication comes, because
so,
if, for example, if we package a tournament, maybe a FIFA tournament, we package a tournament and we want to live stream. Now that particular live stream cannot be
yeah.
a subject of whatever sale or license you want to think of that actually happens in the traditional sport. And the reason is because most game publishing company actually put it as part of their term of use that if you want to maybe license, a live stream or something that you've done, you have to pay so and so, or follow so and so stipulated rules. I know, so that's like I would say is a disadvantage in some way for the industry, because you can't just give out license like that and say, okay, I give you the license to broadcast this event. It has to come directly from the game publishing companies themselves. So what every other person does, or in Africa majorly, is we rely on the certain there's a segment in the term of use that says you can use this game blah 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 if it's not for commercial use. So there's always something like that. So most of them then come under the argument of it's not for commercial use, because they would stipulate the price limit that would be, that they will see as commercial use. So, for example, now I think for Rainbow, for Rocket League, the price limit is $5,000. So, if you are doing any tournament above $5,000, you would need to get license from Rocket League themselves. So you can see in that instance that it's not just a straightforward thing to do. So in that instance, if you actually want to, whether sub-license or license, whatever rights that you want to have over maybe a live stream or a video or whatever, you definitely have to get the consent of the publishing company. So I just think, so for sporting rights in esports, it's not really a straightforward thing, like I said. And this is where practitioners come in again, because like I recently did something like this for somebody. I had to read the term of use and see, okay, what you want to do, is it exactly in line with the term of use as this, as stipulated by the game publishing company, or do they have some other thing involved in it? And when I read through it, I discovered that you could not actually do something like that, and I had to advise the creative that no, pull down this stream, don't do this stream, don't do this. So that's why I said sporting rights don't really, it's not really a straightforward thing in the industry. And sometimes you could actually license or give out rights and nothing might happen. But legally, you can't really like license anything without the game publishing company being involved.
When you were talking about esports and sporting right, I know I did come across an article sometime in October about Pizza Hut's sponsorship deal
Yes, yes.
with a virtual game. I don't know if you saw that. But now, looking at the future of esports in Nigeria, what can we do to get such virtual sponsorship that they get to name um, your games or the stadium and the games itself after the sponsors?
Yeah, yes. In fact, that's a very nice observation, because that was the first ever virtual stadium sponsorship that was done, Pizza
Yeah,
Hut and Madden. So, yes,
yeah.
when looking at Nigeria, it's the same thing basically. We need to go back to the drawing board and just look at the basic. Why did do that? Because they know that a lot of people actually play Madden. It's one of the most popular games in US. Now, that game is not played anywhere. I, Even if it's played, let's say it's not, it won't be up to 1,000 people that play that game outside of, let's say, even North America, because it's a game that is based on a sport in United States, American football. So, but what the game developer or people that created that game were able to leverage on is the popularity of that sport itself. So, and Pizza Hut saw that a lot of youths are actually engaged in this game, are always playing it. So, I mean, why don't we do that? So, the same thing here in Nigeria. We just have to go back to the drawing board and look for a way whereby these game developers in Nigeria can create games that a lot of youth here will be able to resonate with. An example is, so somebody recently created a game based on Boko Haram, and the army. It's a mobile game, but I don't think he has published it fully yet. And a lot of when he posted it on Twitter, a lot of people were like, "Oh wow, this game makes sense," and all of that. So a game like that, if it can get nationwide popularity, we definitely know that brands will be looking to do something in game. So right now, in fact, the virtual stadium by Pizza Hut is, you know, it actually sparked a lot of further development. Currently, Mastercard has a partnership with Riot Games. So in game, when you're playing League of Legends, you'll be seeing stands, flags, colored with Mastercard logo. If I right now, the in-game advertisement has advanced to a point whereby brands are now advertising in-game. So Domino's, there's a game where if you press something, a Domino's pizza location will show. You go in, you take your Domino's pizza, you come back, you start your journey again. Then there's also one where if you press something, a bottle water would come up in your hand, and the bottle water is branded with a company's logo. So the limit to what gaming can achieve is definitely uh, nobody has seen it yet. It's boundless. It continues. So what I would just advise everybody is go back to the drawing board and just stick to the basics. Create something that major people in Nigeria can actually be familiar with, and from there, all of these other things will definitely flow. Because if you have a game that people, youth in Ibadan, Akure, Abuja, Lagos, they are playing, it's all over the internet, trending on the internet and whatnot, brands will definitely want to be involved in something like that.
How do you resolve dispute that emanate from the esports sector? Do you go to the courts, because you know that in our courts here in Nigeria are still trying to catch up with um recent development. There's no specialized courts.
Yeah.
Do you opt for alternative dispute resolution? Do you go to arbitration, or do you mediate, or do you negotiate, or go for a hybrid mechanism? What is the best mode of resolving disputes from that sector?
Okay, so first, if I'm to answer this question from a global perspective, then I'll probably just shed some light maybe as to the Nigerian perspective, because Nigeria, there has really not been any major dispute, but there's I think there's an example I can give, but that won't serve as a what you call nationwide kind of like example. So globally, um I don't think people like to go to the court to actually settle esport dispute, and the reason is simple. The esport industry is something that is fast paced, and it deals a lot with time. It deals a lot with time. Like something can be announced right now, and the next minute it can be cancelled, or something can be developed that would make that thing redundant. So you definitely don't want to take a case of esport to the court where you that you're a pro player, your lifespan or your career, lifespan probably won't be more than maybe 5, 7 years or so, because some most of these pro players just like to play maybe for 2, 3, 5 years, then start being involved as a coach or something. So you definitely don't want to have a dispute where you are in the court for 4, 5 years and your career is over and everything. So I would say, yeah, globally, everybody, adopts the arbitration mode, and that's why we have the World Esport Arbitration Body. So it's called WESA. So they have their own arbitration rules. They have their own emergency arbitrators. A situation whereby you have a dispute, you don't have to go to the court. You just go there and request for an arbitrator and all of that. So now bringing it back home, like I said, I mentioned the issue of professionalism. So you most often than not won't even see, if you see two people working in the sport industry, you most likely don't have a contract binding them at all. They just did, guy, you're my guy, you're my guy. But we've had one issue. So while I was working with Esport Nigeria, so I was able to draft like a standard template contract for athletes or whatever team you are, you can just adopt that contract which I drafted, and I actually put mediation and arbitration. And the reason why, no, I initially put for them to resolve it, amicably, because that's most likely the first and only way they would resolve to amicable, settlement. Okay, my guy, you're my guy. Take this money. Okay, I accept this. So I put, three dispute mechanism there: settlement, amicable settlement, mediation, and arbitration. But most often than not, like I said, in Nigeria, most people don't have contracts binding them. And for the example I wanted to give, the issue that actually, arose was a player wanted to leave, and unfortunately for him, he had a contract binding and something like that. Unfortunately for him, like I said, which is not supposed to be an unfortunate thing, though, but because that's how the industry is, if you have a contract, it's an unfortunate situation. So he wanted to leave, and in a situation like that, he was supposed to notify the team and something like that. And because the team owner was actually, is actually a knowledgeable person and all. So, but in that same issue, we had to also take care of that relationship internally. So, like I said, that's why I said I won't really dwell more on it, because it's not like an issue like that. So we had to dwell more on it internally, resolve it, call both parties and say, okay, this is what happened. He wanted to leave, but he didn't know that this stipulation was there or something. We also advised the gamer that, look, this thing says in your contract that you should do this. So, and that was how, the whole situation ended, because everybody realized that if any issue comes up that would tarnish the image of the industry, it affects everybody, as a whole. So if there's any issue, we have to step in and, resolve it one way or the other. So that's, how far we've been able to go dispute wise. But as a matter of, global practice, nobody goes to court to actually settle an esport dispute. The only one that went to court, they actually had to settle out of court. So Face Clan and Tifway, and it was a very nasty situation. They put in the contract that the player was to get 20% and the club was to get 80%. And it brought up the issue of unequal bargaining power. I mean, how you stipulate that you as the club you collect 80%, the player collects 20. So typically, and these are the things most of the clubs here in Nigeria don't even know, that you are not supposed to collect higher than the player. It's supposed to be in form of maybe 70-30, 80-20 in favor of the players themselves. So yeah, that's how far dispute has come in the industry.
I think I'll agree with you that towing the line of ADR is best, and
Yeah,
when drafting the contract, it's very important that you have a multi-layered form of a dispute mechanism, whereby if one doesn't work, you can opt for the other one and then
ex-
the other one. But at the end of the day, I believe parties will definitely settle, because one person will definitely need something that he's hoping he will get in the course of
exactly,
the
exactly.
conversation. But yeah, I think that's like, I think I'm loving esports more now that you guys are doing more of ADR than litigation.
Yes,
Kudos to me.
nobody is going to go.
IP and arbitration and then mediation. So yeah, we're doing
Yeah,
good so far. Pretty good.
yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so um, what are your final words, advice for esports enthusiasts, developers, and the relevant stakeholders in Nigeria and Africa? Like, what do we need to what is the final word you want to leave us with today?
Okay, basically, we should just keep doing what we've been doing, and put in more effort, like 10 times. The effort should be 10 times, more than it used to be, whether this year or the year before. And one thing we need to learn more um, in Africa is we need to collaborate more. Like, I can't, I don't know if I can emphasize on that, because we say collaborate too much, but I don't know, for the
With Ben.
esports industry, yes, like everybody says collaborate, but people don't really know the extent to which it can actually, affect the industry. So I like to give practical examples. So in US or whatever country you want to mention that actually has an advanced system. You see that once, let's say, if a streamer or a content creator is going live or is going online, you see the remaining streamers are like, oh, guys, follow, go watch, go stream or something. Because they know that if that guy has massive, viewership, massive following and all of that, it also transcend to them, because it then brings in more brand and say, okay, wow, people are actually buzzing about this industry. So you see a situation whereby Riot is doing something, even EA or so many people, they will support and all of that. I'm just giving examples, but we don't get that here in Africa. Most of these gamers don't even do anything on social media, and even when they even do, they don't really support that much. So if somebody, let's say from Ghana, is going for a tournament or something, everybody's supposed to be like, oh, guy, go. In fact, inter-country is even too much. Is so bogus. Even here in Nigeria, if a streamer is going live, everybody come, let's support, because if that guy does well, it also means you yourself, you are going to do well. So but the general notion in Africa is it should be only me taking the bread. It should be only me taking everything. I will keep my strategy to myself and do this, which is wrong. So my word to the stakeholders is they should look at how these people in developed scenes are actually doing things and collaborate in that format. It's not just to shout collaborate. Also do it in the manner in which these people are doing it, and definitely a lot is going to happen, because trust me, a lot of stakeholders, I mean these foreign stakeholders, are actually looking at the African scene, because one thing the African continent is known for is to just develop surprisingly. You just not be able to predict it. You just look at fintech. When the likes of PayPal were the fintech gurus globally, the likes
Yeah.
of Flutterwave and Paystack probably were just starting to think about what they would do. But look at fintech today. You have Paystack that doing an exit of 200 million, worth over $200 million. So that's how gaming can also be in years to come. And look at the fintech industry; they also collaborate very well. I don't think you will see any tech or a techie that doesn't know the CEO of Paystack, or that is not related with the CEO of Paystack. You see that all of them, they have this collaborative sense where the CEO of Paystack knows the CEO of RiseVest, or the CEO of RiseVest knows the CEO of Flutterwave. They know themselves and they support one another. So we need to see more of that in the gaming and esports industry, and definitely a lot of investment, a lot of development would come to play. In fact, there is something coming to, I think, Africa in 2021. So a virtual, we like call it like a studio or something. So it's going to involve cycling, virtual cycling, and virtual Formula One race and all of that. So that's coming to Africa in 2021. So it's an example of what collaboration can actually do. So it's somebody that's going to also make that investment, into Africa, and say, okay, we want to build a virtual, whether studio, I can't really remember where it is, but I know it has to do with virtual cycling and virtual Formula One race. So that's an example of something that collaboration can do. So yeah, I would say
Wow.
that. Yeah.
I think after this conversation, it seems like esports is even more interesting than the other industry that actually interfaces
Trust me,
with intellectual
it,
property.
it is. I mean, if you look at traditional, I don't be people that go into traditional sport, but really, how many things can you bring out of traditional sport? Currently our clubs in Nigeria are not even paying attention and all of this, because before you even talk of intellectual property, there are a whole lot of issues that is currently rocking the industry. So before somebody can sit down and listen to you talk of IP, they will first have to talk of referee issues in the NPFL, broadcasting, whether content to stream and all those other things. So what I'm just basically saying is there are so many layers to actually that someone will pass through before you can actually get to intellectual property when it comes to traditional sport. But for esports, the first thing you are meeting as you enter the industry is IP. Then from there, other things then come into play. So before you think of contracts, regulations, all those other things, IP will first come into play before you then talk of, every other thing. I'm very sure, I'm very, very sure, or I would just say I'm maybe 60% sure that most contracts in maybe traditional sport don't really emphasize more on the image right of the players in Nigeria. Because first of all, how many of them have image to, commercialize or logos or all these things? But if you check an average esport contract, the IP aspect is the most, the most important aspect, because that has to do with your image showing on the organization video, your logos showing there also, and things like that. So I would, for me, I advise people, like, try to let everybody try to be involved, and because the more the merrier. And once there are more practitioners, there'll be more professionalism, and that will transcend to more growth. So it's definitely a win for everybody. So yeah,
The
it will be a nice
win-win
one
for
if you can be
everybody.
actively involved. I'll be so
I
glad
mean,
myself.
I'll be more active now. I'll be
Exactly.
more active now.
Yeah.
But
Then I see your comments. You recently commented on some one tweet by Joe Pampiano or something about a young boy getting paid.
yeah, I swear.
That's
As in,
some
just imagine a
exactly
young boy like the
exactly
signing contract.
exactly. In
Wow.
fact, that's
Please,
even an 8-year-old boy. Is he eight? Rowdy Rogan,
imagine.
recently
Yeah.
got something like that. In fact, a boy, Booga, at the age of 16, he won the Fortnite World Cup, worth $3 million. So these are,
Yeah, that was last year
yeah.
now. Was it not
Is
last
it
year?
last year? Was it last year, Booga? Oh, yeah, last year. That was last
Yes,
year.
it was.
Last year, yeah.
I saw esports news. I try to, I'm just calculating myself like, okay, very soon we'll just hit the hammer on the head and we'll scatter everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's a good thing.
Oh, wow. You've not, there is currently, okay, there is currently an event that has a 1 million naira prize pool in Nigeria. I don't know if you've heard of the LG.
Yeah, just telling me. Good.
Yeah, so yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. So okay, there is an event in Nigeria that has 1 million naira prize pool. I'm not saying 1 million naira shared among the gamers. 1 million naira to one person. So somebody won that year this
Ah,
year, and next year they said they are going to increase it. So rumor has it that it's going to be 1.5 million. Rumor, but they said they are going to.
I'm going to participate next year.
You,
What do you think? I'm participating
yes, and
next
let me
year.
use this medium to also advertise my guys. So the one of my guys that will be participating, because I want to actually inspire as many people. He won the Lagos round to actually participate at the grand finale next year. So he's actually a law student in law
Wow.
school too. So his name is Omeza. Yes,
Wow.
so he won the Lagos edition, and he won himself a TV worth over 700,000 naira. That's just for the
Oh
Lagos.
yeah, I saw that.
Exactly. So
I saw where you posted.
exactly. So that's my friend, and we're
I saw where
currently
you
in law
posted
school
it.
together. So he's a law student, and is also involved. So meaning that there's no limit to who can actually enter the industry. So everybody
Hmm. I'm there already. It's just we've not been taking it serious, but we'll start taking it serious from now.
going to make a name for himself.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Steven. It's been like a very enlightening
Yeah.
session with you. Like from next year, you'll be seeing me now. By the time they start doing top esports blog, you see my
I'm
blog
really
there.
looking
But
forward to it. I'm looking, and I,
but
I think I forgot to mention,
yeah,
one of the things that is currently going on, is the inclusion of, more women in the industry. So I definitely see a scenario where you come in and you actually, become prominent, and you also help to, add to the development and growth, especially from the female aspect, because there are not many women, involved in the industry from an active, point. So if you go to any gaming competition, you will rarely see a girl there participating. Rarely. Some have come, but you don't get that too much. So that's one of the ongoing discussion, how to get more women involved. And that's something I'm genuinely interested in. Currently I have two female content creators that I work with, that I want to make sure, they actually get to the top, and so many other girls can look up to them and say, we want to be like this person. So it's definitely something that will be welcome if you come into the industry.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that in camera. So
Sure, no problem, no problem.
okay, so thank you once
Yes.
again, Stephen. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time, especially running through the questions and getting your insight, mind blowing. So yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really, really grateful. Thank you for having me. It's a privilege. Yeah.
And so we've come to the end of this episode with Stephen Ojo on esports. If you learned something new, do send us an email to ipseriesinfo@gmail.com. Don't forget, you can also leave a comment on Anchor. You can also favorite, like, and share. You can also follow us on Instagram, ip.series1, and on Twitter, we are ipseries1. Happy holidays so far, and a prosperous 2021. Trust me, guys, IP series for next year is gonna be loaded. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us so far in the IP series Christmas edition. So yeah, until the next and final episode coming out in a few days. Bye, guys.